So as you all know, we were recently very challenged here in Los Angeles with these wildfires. This is not the first time that we face a crisis of this nature in LA, but this one really took us a little bit by surprise, especially with the magnitude and the scope and the so many lives and homes that were lost overall in this fire and all of the repercussions of that. So suddenly when the fires hit, we had to pivot a lot of our activities to try to understand what was happening and also to try to be there for our communities, because a lot of the work that we do is very community engaged. We were worried about our patients, we were worried about our research participants, we were worried about our students, our faculty, and our staff. And so our Department of Population and Public Health took the leadership in really putting together a whole program to help individuals out in the community facing these wildfires. We did a myriad of things, of which you will hear about in detail later, but that including providing the most up-to-date information on the wildfires, what was happening, what was the air quality, what were the issues that people were facing at the moment. And that was a huge effort that changed almost by the hour, and certainly by the day, because as things evolved, we had to keep changing. In addition to that, we had a lot of people who wanted to help and a lot of people who are normally the ones that help who were in need. And so the department put together a survey to begin to understand what was happening, how were people suffering or impacted by the wildfires. And that then led to a series of different activities that we did related to that. And you'll hear more about those as well, because not only did we get a whole task force together to support food distribution, to support supply distribution, and also to support information distribution. And that had to happen with our partners, as well as at different levels with our patients, as well as with our staff and our faculty. And so an entire community rose up in protection and in really trying to help with these wildfires that we were facing.
The department had a great significance in coordinating and planning on seeing how to be out in the field for our community members and also our staff members and our faculty who were affected by the wildfires. It ranged from a variety of different things, from educating them into, what are the next, when a fire happens, what do you do? What are the items that you needed to take out, right? Going back to the location and then, realizing what you have lost and what are the needs that you have. So it went from resources such as educational and very physical and day-to-day resources that were needed, whether it was from, dishes, whether it was from toiletries, whether it was clothing, all the basic needs that were really lacking. But I'm happy to state that our department, PPHS, really stepped in along with the Cancer Center and our community enhancement and other centers also within the university. We had a bunch of volunteers from staff, faculty, and also students at various different levels that were very warm-heartedly collecting all these materials that were needed, whether it was toiletries, basic needs, and other educational information, making it available in various different languages, because we realized that, yes, during the time of the fires, we tend to need also the various different languages because you go back to what you're more comfortable with in accessing information. Here at USC, internally, several different organizations that do a lot of community outreach came together and developed the Wildfire Task Force, which included university relations, CTSI, representatives from the Cancer Center, and other organizations, including our PPHS, to tackle and understand what were the community needs. Additionally, PPHS has a different task force that came about, which actually is doing the follow-up, because this wildfire that has affected, it hasn't come to an end. It's going through different stages, and PPHS task force is making sure to conduct several different surveys to see what are the potential needs and how things are changing as they evolve within time. In collaboration with other internal partners here, such as university relations and our office from the deans, we were able to actually not only create and generate listings of volunteer sites because our students and our staff members were very interested in seeing how they can, provide extra volunteer hours and be out there for the community and for all those that were affected by the fires. We also went ahead and generated a listing of locations where food would be available, because some of these families needed access to them. Remember, they lost not only their homes, but many of them also lost their automobiles or their bikes. And it affected the entire family, not only the adults, the seniors, but also the children. So we were able to partner with other community organizations as well as internally to gather a surplus that was occurring because, for example, in Altadena, they had a massive amount of donations that many community organizations and community volunteers were dropping off, but then they didn't know what to do with that surplus. So we went ahead and gathered some of the surplus, created care packages, and then made sure to distribute them for those that were in need. When we handed them not only those resources, whether they're funds or actual care packages, they finally felt that they had something that belonged to them after having lost everything. So it made a huge difference and impact. And just seeing their faces of happiness and knowing that they were not alone through this process, but that they had a community backing them up, made a huge difference. Through the Cancer Center, we were able to raise $54,599 that went directly to patients that were affected by the wildfires. A story that I would like to share is that one of the patients not only suffered through the wildfires, but their family, their immediate family, also had jobs around these areas. That they pretty much lost their job because there was not a place that they needed to go to do whether there is their maintenance or electrical or plumbing job. So some of these funds really came in very handy, which provided them with support from getting groceries, even paying, for childcare, because as they were trying to figure out things for themselves, they needed some mental time to kind of recuperate from what had just happened. So they needed a lot of support. Another story that I would like to share is that one of a faculty member here within the university was a little bit embarrassed because they're not accustomed, right, to asking for help, since they always tend to be the ones giving the help out in the community. So it was a little bit difficult for this person to actually approach us, but finally through conversations and letting them know of the various different resources that were available, actually told us that they were in need of some basic toiletries. So we made sure that to share some of those care packages. And again, it was just, very meaningful because they didn't realize, that they can also obtain the support that was being made available through our various partners here at USC, especially through PPHS.
So during our task force collaboration, we compassed a cadre of infographics and educational materials to keep our communities informed about what a wildfire is, how they can tackle that, in what ways they can clean up their homes, some recommendations about water safety tips, also how they can clean up the ash after the wildfires. We also developed infographics on mental health issues for all of these communities that were facing these wildfires to help them face better all of these stressful times. We activated 50 of our closest partners to disseminate through them all of these educational materials we developed in our offices, and we have the support as well of the Environmental Health Division in our PPHS department. Some of the topics that we included in our materials were wildfires, management of toxic substances, lead contamination, water contamination. We also included some materials on mental health so that people can really get more information about how to deal with depression or anxiety during these wildfires. We also added all of these materials in a printed version in the care packages that we put together, and we also disseminated these materials online and through our social media channels. We also make some phone calls to deliver this information for the communities that don't have access to any type of internet or electronic devices, making sure that they all were very informed while our task force was in force.
So we capitalize on all of the resources that we have within our Department of Population and Public Health, as well as our Keck School of Medicine. And multiple programs were initiated to help those in greatest need, both at the university and at the Keck School of Medicine and within our departments and within our center, various centers, including our Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center. A lot of that information can be found in our cenhealth website, which is the Center for Health Enhancement. But essentially, now people need to continuously be vigilant. We know that as people that are being trained in public health, these are the kinds of issues that many of our students and many of our faculty will face, not just today, but in the future, especially if we look at the various conditions that we face environmentally and how those are impacting. We feel that we are much more ready for some of these issues that we've had to face, such as a COVID pandemic, as well as the wildfires, which are issues that are crises that come in and make us pivot immediately. And we have now the resources and mechanisms to do so. We really encourage that we do not forget that many people are still going through a lot when it comes to recuperating from these wildfires, anywhere from mental health issues that need to be addressed, all the way to some of the housing issues that people need long-term housing. People are trying to reconstruct their lives. And so in whatever ways we as a community can be there for each other, we galvanized and catalyzed and brought together everything that we had at that moment for people. But it is in the long run. It's a long game. So being able to still be there for people is really essential. And I hope that our students, our faculty, and our staff continue to do that work.